There is a ministry of refreshment that the super grace believer has. The ministry of refreshment belongs to those who are in spiritual adulthood and beyond. The Corinthians are not yet spiritual adults. They're on their way, and they're advancing quickly. The ministry of refreshment belongs to those who are in super grace. They're beyond adulthood. And this ministry consists of them, by means of blessing by association, they provide happiness to those people who are associated with them, those people in a person's periphery, also known as the tender affections of the people are refreshed. And so say that a super grace believer walks into a party. Yes, that super grace believer provides happiness to those around him. Yeah, or say that his family is associated with him. He's having fellowship with them in Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever it is. So his presence there provides happiness, also known as the ministry of refreshment. Again, their tender affections are refreshed because of their association with him. The Corinthians, nope, they're barely recovering. This is not the ministry of refreshment. Rather, this is the refreshment that the pastor-teacher receives at seeing the positive volition of his congregation. There's a great danger of pastors that they can become very disencouraged when they see that their congregation is indifferent, not learning any Bible. The pastor puts in all this effort, studying copious hours, burning his brains every single day. And then he comes to his congregation and teaches them very excitedly many times something that took him 10 hours to figure it out, just to see that their congregation is apathetic, indifferent towards the teaching, or perhaps not learning anything. And so this is extremely discouraging to the pastor, or tempting at least. And the reason why many times pastors, they are in danger of becoming despondent. Therefore, a pastor-teacher needs a whole lot of plus H, happiness, so that he can continue thrusting and advancing. He needs to also love God, problem-solving device number 7, so that can serve as motivation. He needs to understand that his job is done as unto the Lord and not as unto people. And regardless of the indifference of the congregation, he continues advancing, plugging, thrusting. And so we have those pastors who have that extreme tenacity because of their personal love and their happiness. But they are human, and they will experience the temptation of being or feel their human spirit feeling without any rest. Sometimes the congregation goes against him. They foment little revolutions or conspiracies, and they go against him. And all these things, they are discouragement to him. But as when he sees those believers who are positive, they're sitting down, learning, this serves as extreme refreshment to his human spirit. And this is the refreshment that we find here. Titus was indeed a pastor. He ended up pastoring in the island of Crete when Paul died. But here in 57 AD, he is still with Paul. Okay, so again, our translation says, "For this reason we have been comforted. But in addition to our comfort, we rejoiced. We rejoiced even more exceedingly because of the joy, happiness of Titus, because his human spirit, was refreshed by all of you." Okay, so that is the refreshment of the human spirit. Now we can move on to verse 14. In verse 14 in the NIV says, "I had boasted to him about you, and you have not embarrassed me. But just as everything we said to you was true, so our boasting about you to Titus has proved to be true as well." Okay, at face value, this really does not say anything. Just the fact that he boasted, not in terms of arrogance, obviously, in terms of contentment and confidence, in terms of esprit de corps. He boasted to Titus, look at these Corinthians. They're great. They have great positive volition. They're hungry for the word. They're already advancing and this and that. So that is boasting. And then he's saying that everything that I said was true. You was not ashamed at the fact that I boasted about you. So, but other than that, it doesn't really say anything in the English. Therefore, let us go over the Greek. There's something in here. Okay, verse 14. We have another hoti. Now this one is explanatory. Let's translate it for now. And then we have a first class condition A here. If and it's true. If I boasted to him about something, and it's true, I did boast about him. We've seen second class conditions, if plus the particle an, which means if and it's not true. We've seen third class conditions, an plus the subjunctive. If, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, maybe you will, maybe you won't. Here is a first class condition. 4. If gekau hemai. We look for the verb, and here's the verb. And so it's a perfect active indicative. There is no nominative case. It is implied in the verb. First person, singular. If I boasted. The perfect tense is it's extensive because it emphasizes the completed action, the fact that he boasted, without any reference to the results of it. He simply boasted. Boasting not in terms of arrogance. It does have a double meaning, not here, but kaukahomai does have an arrogant meaning. Boasting in terms of arrogance, of being a braggart, of becoming inflated about something. Kaukaomai here means contentment, confidence as to the Corinthians' positive volition, their performance. So the perfect tense is extensive. The active voice, this is passive in form but active in meaning, something we call the deponent verb. And the indicative mood is declarative. It's true that he boasted to Titus. For now, here we have the dative of indirect object of the intensive pronoun autos, to him. For if I boasted to him, and then huper plus the genitive of su. Huper plus humon. And we've seen this prepositional phrase a lot. This is the genitive, huper plus the genitive of reference. About you, concerning you. On behalf of you? No, just it's better to say concerning or about you. If I boasted. But first, he boasted about something, so we have the accusative here first. I missed it. This is the indefinite pronoun of the. It's in the neuter, so it means something. So if I boasted about something, about you, concerning you, to him. Do you see this again? This is the accusative direct object, well, accusative of respect. This is the verb right here. If I boasted about something, that something is about them, concerning you, and then the dative of indirect object, to him. All right, this the here, it's also idiomatic. It can mean something or anything, but idiomatically becomes in any way. So if I boasted and in any way to him about you, concerning you, and I did it, and it's true. Now the apodosis, this is the prodosis of the first class condition. This is the apodosis over here. I was not put to shame. I was not humiliated. And yeah, both of these can be true. I was not embarrassed. The NIV puts, "You did not embarrass me." And that could be translated that way. I'm going to go very literal now. It's in the first person. So I'm going to say, "I was not put to shame." This is the aorist tense. It's a culminative aorist, regarding in one entirety the act of being ashamed, but emphasizing it from the results. The fact that he stands his ground. He stands his case as to the fact that the Corinthians were positive. They were marvelous believers because of their positive volition. The passive voice, Paul receives the action of the verb. He was not defrauded. He was not disappointed at all. Everything that he said turned out to be true about the Corinthians, about their diligent application. And the indicative mood is declarative. So passive voice, "I was not put to shame. I was not embarrassed." It's denied. The declarative indicative is denied here by, "Ooh, I was not embarrassed." Okay. So what does it say again? "For if I boasted in any way to him about y'all concerning you, I was not put to shame." Put to shame. And now he's about to explain something here. We have the contrast, the adversative conjunction ala, very strong. It's about to give you the opposite of this right here. Oh, excuse me, no. The opposite of being put to shame. I was not put to shame. And then ala, we're going to translate it on the contrary. On the contrary. Yes. On the contrary. And then we have a correlative conjunction here, hos. Why is it correlative? Because it goes with hutos. Just, so it works together. Just as, so also. Hos means as, hutos means in thus manner. Just as, so also. So, but, just as, and then the verb is over here. We do not see the nominative case. It's implied in the verb. Elalesamen. It is the aorist active indicative of laleo. Just as we spoke, we said, we communicated. This is the teaching of Bible doctrine. Paul and his team, Paul, Apollos, Timothy, who tried, they communicated a lot of Bible doctrine. Everything that they communicated was nothing but Bible doctrine. And so he's going to say, just or to the extent that we communicated Bible doctrine, everything that we said about you turned out to be true. Paul has so much confidence in Bible doctrine, and he knew that that doctrine in them was going to produce results, good results. He's not having confidence in them, he's having confidence in the doctrine inside of them. And even though sometimes a believer might seem like he's not making any changes, or why isn't he changing? Why is he still sinning this way? Why is he still being petty? Why is this and that? If you see that that believer is positive and he's listening towards Bible doctrine, just wait. Be patient. Allow for doctrine to produce the work. But let me, before I move on or continue with my preaching, let me just go over the morphology of this. La leo. So this is the aorist, the constantive aorist, collecting in one entirety all the times that Paul communicated Bible doctrine to them, and Apollos, and Timothy, and now Titus as well. But it has no special regard for the results. It just collects in one entirety all the time that they communicated Bible doctrine. The active voice. Paul, Timothy, Apollos produced the action of the verb of communicating hard Bible doctrine to them. And the indicative mood is declarative. As part of this correlative sentence, just as we communicated Bible doctrine to you in the sphere of truth, and hold on. So now we have the accusative direct object of banda, bas. It is in the neuter, plural, so that means all things. Everything that they communicated was Bible doctrine, because we have n plus the dative of sphere of aletheia. Aletheia means truth. The literal meaning of this, you have a plus lethe. Lethe comes from lantano, means to conceal. Not conceal, meaning that truth is available. But before I move on, so this is in the sphere of truth. Just as we communicated all things in the sphere of truth. In other words, everything that they communicated was Bible doctrine. And then we have another dative here. This is the dative of indirect object, also the dative of advantage. To y'all, to your advantage. So what do we have? What does it say? Okay, hold on. 4. If I boasted in any way about you to him, I was not put to shame, I was not embarrassed. On the contrary, just as we communicated all things in the sphere of truth to your benefit. And then now we have the other part of the correlative sentence. Hutos, in this manner. Boom. Let me continue in the next video.